engine is infinite possibility.
The days of filling in the gaps of a dinosaur's genome with frog DNA are over.
With the recent discovery that soft tissue preserved by iron chelators can produce gold mines of DNA, we can put the puzzle pieces together much faster than ever before.
Combine that with all of the extractions that we have at our amber mines in Wyoming and Latvia, we're looking at a significantly large library of DNA samples.
We're approaching 100% genome accuracy in dozens of species. And this is just step one in what we do.
This is what's really exciting.
Hello folks, this is Mark Armitage coming to you from my microscope laboratory. And I'm pretty incensed by some of the propaganda that's being put out there to support Jurassic World, the new Jurassic Park video, which is going to come out here in a few weeks. And the thing that incenses me the most, and I really hope this video goes viral, I would encourage you to send it to all of your friends and get as many people who are uneducated in science to watch this as possible. Because this deals with my work. It deals with my work on the 48-inch long Triceratops horn that we found in Montana and all of the stretchy soft tissue that we found in that, and we'll show you that video in a second. And here is an example of what we mean by soft stretchy tissues found in bone. These are soft fibrillar bone tissues that were deep in the Triceratops horn. These never come in contact with blood. There are blood vessels running through the bone, but these soft fibrillar bone tissues are sequestered or hidden away by massive amounts of bone mineral, and they never come in contact with blood. They receive blood products through the tiny openings or canaliculi, but they never come in contact with red blood cells. It has to do with our work on the condyle, which is the bone at the base of the skull of the Triceratops. When we went back to Glendive, Montana, and we found this condyle, and it was loaded with soft tissue, soft bone tissue.
The days of filling in the gaps of a dinosaur's genome with frog DNA are over.
With the recent discovery that soft tissue preserved by iron chelators can produce gold mines of DNA. And also the frill. We went back to Montana and we collected frill, which is the large plate behind the skull of the Triceratops, and full of soft tissues.
The days of filling in the gaps of a dinosaur's genome with frog DNA are over.
With the recent discovery that soft tissue preserved by iron chelators can produce gold mines of DNA.
And so they're trying to put a spin on these discoveries of soft tissue in dinosaur bone because they can't explain its longevity. And so they're using a recent paper by Dr. Mary Schweitzer and others at North Carolina State University and elsewhere, where she basically soaked ostrich blood vessels in blood for 2 years on a laboratory bench in an air-conditioned laboratory.
The days of filling in the gaps of a dinosaur's genome with frog DNA are over.
With the recent discovery that soft tissue preserved by iron chelators can produce gold mines of DNA.
These are lies. You need to understand that these are lies that they're promoting because everybody's running around saying, oh, the iron preserves the tissues. The iron preserves the tissues.
The days of filling in the gaps of a dinosaur's genome with frog DNA are over.
With the recent discovery that soft tissue preserved by iron chelators can produce gold mines of DNA.
Well, the iron doesn't preserve the tissues, and this is akin to a 10th grade science experiment. As I mentioned, she basically soaked ostrich blood vessels in highly purified blood on a laboratory bench in an air-conditioned laboratory for 2 years. And she extrapolated out from that point and said, well, it's obvious this is what preserved these dinosaur tissues for millions of years, 68 million years. Well, let me say one thing to begin with. These are not fossils. These are dinosaur bones that have not fossilized because we have dissolved them in a weak acid. This, of course, is a mock-up, a casting of the condyle that we found, but this is real Triceratops frill, and we've dissolved this away in a weak acid, exposing the soft tissues within it. So these are not fossilized artifacts. These are the real bones that were buried in the ground and left there because they dissolve. Now, Mary Schweitzer essentially used an anticoagulant to keep the blood from clotting, because blood clots almost within minutes upon leaving a blood vessel. And so essentially, by removing all the platelets, by removing all the white cells, by removing all the proteins like fibrin and thrombin and all these proteins that initiate the blood clotting cascade, that initiate this blood clotting cascade by these proteins, she removed all that from the blood, and so she essentially used an anticoagulant to prevent the blood from clotting. Now, this is far removed from the conditions of the Hell Creek Formation in Montana, where these dinosaurs were buried. And many of them were ripped apart. The horn that we found was completely ripped away from the skull, and so it was completely exposed, less than 2 feet from the surface of the Montana soil there. And so nothing like the laboratory conditions that she used for her experiment. She also concentrated the red blood cells. She centrifuged and centrifuged and centrifuged and came out with this pure, not even a solution, a pure deposit, a pure amount of pure red blood cells, and then she lysed them. She broke them open, exposing all of the hemoglobin, which has the iron inside. So again, nothing like the conditions found at the Hell Creek Formation. Again, she left this on a laboratory bench in air conditioning in the absence of fungal bodies, of plants, of microbes, of insects, of rodents. And we have found the DNA of all these things associated with our horn. And so again, nothing like the actual conditions found at the Hell Creek Formation that are supposedly there over these supposed 68 million years.
The days of filling in the gaps of a dinosaur genome with frog DNA are over.
With the recent discovery that soft tissue preserved by iron chelators can produce gold mines of DNA.
The other thing that Schweitzer and her team should have done is they should have studied their bone anatomy. And here I have Weider's functional histology, and here's a diagram of compact bone. And all of these tiny little squiggly lines you see inside this bone are the filopodia, the little arms from the osteocytes. All of this is massively protected within this compact bone, massive bone mineral, and never comes in contact with blood. Ask any orthopedist, any orthopedic surgeon, and he will tell you that none of these bone tissues, like the soft stretchy tissue, which we're about to show you, ever come in contact with blood. Once again, these soft fibrillar bone tissues are sequestered in hard mineral, and they never come in contact with the red blood cells from the blood. They never touch the iron. So the iron from the blood could have never preserved this soft, stretchy tissue and all of the bone osteocytes that we have discovered and shown you. And so this is akin to a 10th grade science experiment, and it's not reality. I mean, iron oxides are so reactive. In fact, just go to the Rust Belt during the winter and look at all the rusted out cars, and you'll see the effect of iron oxides on metals, let alone tissues. And so these iron chelation that they talk about in this video, this is used to remove heavy metals from the body. It is in no way a standardized protocol for the preservation of tissues. If it is, it would be in my electron microscope manuals on methods to preserve tissue for long periods of time. In addition, if this was a standard protocol for the wonderful preservation of tissues for long periods of time, don't you think all these very wealthy people who are freezing their bodies in hopes of being revived some thousands of years in the future when medical cures are available to help them with their current woes, don't you think they would be using iron chelation as a protocol to save themselves, to preserve themselves? This is hogwash, folks, and it's a lie. It's a method that the evolutionists are using to prove that soft tissue now has an explanation. It has no explanation. We don't know why these soft tissues are preserved. There's no method, there's no protocol, there's no methodology that we know of that can preserve these tissues for long periods of time. So You know, the evolutionists are still up the creek without a paddle. They cannot explain how these tissues have been preserved for a long time, and the conclusion is obvious. These bones, which are not fossils, they're bones that can be dissolved in acids, are young. They have to be young. If the bones are young, then the deposits are young. If the deposits are young, then the earth is young. If the earth is young, then Genesis suddenly becomes believable. There is a creator who made our grandparents, Adam and Eve, put them in a perfect garden, but sin entered the world, changed everything, and now we need Jesus Christ as our mediator, as our helper, as our forgiver to get us back to God. So please pass this video around, and remember, these are bone tissues, soft, stretchy bone tissues that never come in contact with blood. How can they be this stretchy after millions of years? Thanks for watching.